Hi everyone, it's Georgia down in Australia and I have something a little bit different for you today. I'm currently working on a special project and I thought, hey, this would be a really cool thing to do as a YouTube video because it is kind of related to what I do, in a way, sort of, yes. So currently our parish is organising a Christmas concert for the month of December, and I have been asked, along with my parish art group, to design some overhead slides that will be titles for all the songs that are sung through the concert. Now, I have chosen for myself a particular song, which is Psalm 96, and I thought, hey, you know what? It's a psalm. Let's do a Bible journaling page. Surprise! So this is going to be a run through of how I'm putting this page together and taking what is normally a portrait orientation, quite compact page covered in script, and taking that off the page into a very wide landscape format with other things going on. And it's also going to be a look at how to recycle your art, because I was sitting here for ages thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I want it to be a Bible journaling page, sort of. I'm going to have a ripped out Bible page of the psalm here somewhere, but how do I incorporate all these other things? I have no idea. I'm thinking, and I actually looked across the room and saw something that I'm working on, which is a recycle of a recycle, and I thought, oh, this would be absolutely perfect. So the original is actually a Bible journaling with kids project that I made, which is this sun out of collaged pieces of decorative paper, and I'm going to have that on the page. Also, on every single one of these song titles that my art group are creating, I have given everybody this design, which some of you might be familiar with, which is very from 2020, my Bible journaling page of John 3:16, because John 3:16 is actually the theme of our Christmas concert. And so I have given everyone this design of what I'm calling the heart cross, and every piece of art is actually going to have somewhere on it, be it big, small, background, foreground, whatever colours, anyway. This is going to be really a really fun creative exercise, bringing this design somehow into the page. So I need to put this onto my page as well. Along with that, I'm going to need the title, which we'll get to later, but is actually not part of the psalm. So that's kind of fun and interesting. And I'm going to need to have the title both in English and in Chinese characters. So this is going to be quite a fun, full-on kind of page, how to bring all these things together, not make it look messy. And I have already started. I'm really sorry, I've kind of cheated because I actually started this before I realized I was going to make a video. So for my background, all I have done, and we've done this quite a few times before, so I'm sure I don't need to give you a tutorial anyway, is I've created a sort of, starting off as a bit of an ombre background. So I've just put my sort of light blue color and I've squirted it all over the page and added some little blobs of the darker blue, bits of white, and I've just, with a brush, pretend it's got paint on it, with the brush I've just sort of gone through the page up and down, blended those colors, put in a little bit more white, sort of put it through here, just to create this background. Somehow I've managed to get these white spots. I think maybe this was on the side when I was spattering something else, who knows, but that's okay, we're going with that. Part of the design, we'll call it. All right, I could do some spatter. I sort of thought about doing some spatter, but I think that's just going to be a little bit too much. So to get started, I'm going to grab that psalm. Now, it's not very often that I actually pull pages out of this one. This is my, I call it the demonstration Bible, because it has a few pages in it that I have done as sort of demos to give people an idea of things we can do. And it's also the book that I was using way back when I was too nervous to use my real journaling Bible making these videos. So I kind of keep that on the side, and I very rarely cut things out of it, but today I'm going to, yes, it's clear on both sides, I'm going to sacrifice one of these pages because, well, there's a whole lot of reasons why I'm using this one. So I'm pulling the page out. Now, once again, this is my art supply Bible. I know there's probably some of you watching who are just going right now and thinking, what is she doing? How can you tear pages out of your Bible like that? But this is my Art Supply Bible, and I'm not tearing pages out to do something frivolous and useless and thoughtless with. I am actually creating a piece of scripture art. So tearing this page out of my Bible, to me, is quite justified. Now, if you are making something like this and you don't have an Art Supply Bible, I mean, I actually have a few because I go to thrift stores and pick them up, and I have also been given a set of something like 20 Bibles from a school library that were going to chuck them out because they were too advanced for the kids. It's a primary school, and they had these grown-up Bibles which never got looked at because, you know, the kids are interested in the children's Bibles, of course. So they were going to get chucked out, and the teacher librarian said, hey, Georgia, do you want these? Yeah, so I have this huge supply. But if you don't have any, if you don't have access to any, or if if you have a spare but you can't bear the thought of doing this awful thing that I'm doing right now, you can photocopy a page. You can take a photograph of it and trim it and print it out, or you can just download something off the internet, print it, and then cut it out. It probably would make a lot more sense because I would not be playing with such flimsy pages if I did such a thing, but I kind of like the flimsy pages. And again, I have access to these resources. So I am ripping the psalm out, as is my way. Of course, you don't have to rip, you could be careful and cut. Now, I'm keeping the rest of it in the book because never waste anything, especially in my Bibles, because I'm sure I'll be needing it one day. I think I'm going to put it, this is my thought, Bible verse here, my big sunburst design here, in the center of this sun I will have perhaps the first line of this song, "Oh sing to the Lord a new song," maybe, still thinking. Sort of beneath that I'm going to do the heart cross so that you can see it, but the rays of the sun design will be over the top. And then English title, Chinese title. I'm going to have to get someone to do that for me because I did not write Chinese characters, just to put that out there. I'm not that clever. And yeah, I think that will, and somewhere in this design, I also need to bring in a word or a small part or the entire John 3:16. That's going to be maybe a little bit trickier. Or maybe I could put that in the center of the sun. Just a thought. Okay, so for now, I'm going to grab my clear gesso and I'm going to use that to stick my psalm. And once that's done, it's here for sure, so there's no turning back. So I better be sure that this is where I want it. I'm sure. You know, I don't think these things too much. I just put them down, and where they land is where they're going to be. And I'm putting a layer of the gesso over the top as well. That will make it stick really well, and it will also be a bit of a sealant over the top. Pop this here. All right, and I'm going to let that dry before I carry on because I don't want to be accidentally touching it while I do the rest and then ripping the Bible page that I've stuck down, because once it's got the gesso on it, it's wet and very easily ripped. So I'll give that a little bit of time to dry and then I'll come back to it. Once the gesso has pretty much dried, I'm ready to continue, and I think the next thing I will do is lay down my heart cross design. Yes, I'm thinking the big sun design is going to be laid over here. I'm going to have, as I said, the Chinese character title down here. So I'm looking at having my heart cross design sort of here. So I'm very, very lightly with pencil, and you probably can't see that on the screen. I'm sketching a bit of a cross, just so I know where things are going to go. A heart like this, so I can barely see it myself, but it's just to give myself a little bit of an idea of where things are going. All right, so I'm thinking of maybe doing the cross in gold. I'm putting a little bit of gold on my palette here. And this is Ruby from Dina Wakley. It's a nice red color, but it's not too red, if that makes sense. So I'm going to use that for the heart, but I am going to tone it down a bit with a bit of white. So I get some white on here as well. And this is Gilt by Dina Wakley. It is a sort of a darker gold, so that might go well with my cross. All right, so grabbing myself a brush. The first thing I'm going to do is part of my cross, just very, very roughly. I am going to go over this a second time or a third time, or as many times as I need. But this is just to get a basic design. Now this is kind of like rough and shabby looking. I'm not going for exact dimensions and neatness. This is a bit of a rough, arty kind of look. I don't know, something, something. Now that's only just a very rough idea of where the cross is going to be. As you can see, you can still see the blue through it. It doesn't look very good at all, but it is just a rough sketch. And now I'm doing this part of the heart. Now this is the part of the heart that I want to go over the top of the cross. So this is why I did sort of a cross to start with, to give me an idea of where the design is. Now I'm sort of coming in with this heart and a little bit of white to it. Now, same with the heart. This is not the finished thing. This is just this sketch. So I'm sketching with paint. Now once I've got that happening, now I can be a little bit more realistic with where I want my cross to be. This is kind of a process of putting one element down and then another and going back and forth between them until you've got something that you're happy with. I think what I need to do is just put some white down because the gold paint is not sitting on my surface very well. So I think if I give this a bit of white, it will give it a bit of substance. I'm actually grabbing my Dina Wakley white because it's a lot more dense. So it will be a better, oh that's much better. That's giving me a nice background, sort of. So still going for that sketchy kind of shabby, arty look there. Okay, once I've done that, then I can bring the gold onto it. That's much better. And I'm not laying the gold on evenly, I'm just letting it sort of pile up in some places, spread out in others. Again, not going for realism or perfection, I'm just doing that sort of sketchy kind of look, adding a little bit of the darker gold. Okay, and now I can work on that heart. So I've sort of got one side of the heart comes around and goes over the front of the cross here at the bottom, and then the other side of the heart going behind the cross. So that gives that really nice kind of sketched out design. I'm just adding a few little highlights. I'm not stressing too much. I do remind myself But this is going to have something over the top, so only some of it's going to be showing anyway, I think. There we go. So I think I'm happy with that. And I can always, once I've done those collage bits over the top, I can always come back, and any bits that I'm not happy with, I can kind of touch up. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that for now. And while I have the paints out, I'm going to paint the center of my sunburst design. So I'm just grabbing a piece of card to protect this work underneath, because it's actually washi taped to the desk. And what I've done to make the painting a lot easier, because I want to paint a circle, but if I cut out my circle, then I'm mucking around with getting paint around the edges and it makes a big mess. So I've drawn my circle the size that I want on a piece of paper. I've cut out the paper, but a little bit bigger than that circle. Now I'm popping it upside down, and I'll paint that whole area. And then once it's dry, I'll be able to turn it around, cut out the circle, and I'll have a painted circle without all that stress of having to paint a circle shape. Now I'm grabbing some of my orange paint. This is Carved Pumpkin Distress Paint, which I quite like. I know we always, this is a conversation we have with art group a lot. I know orange is just red and yellow, but actually making that perfect orange is a whole different thing. So I'm actually going to put a whole lot of paint onto my surface here, because orange is the main color that I want. So I'm going to cover the entire thing in orange, reminding myself of where that circle is underneath. Okay. Now I still have some red here. I want some yellow as well. Just giving that another layer of orange because I want it nice and saturated. And then I'm just going to pick up little bits of yellow and just blend them in here, kind of randomly. I'm sort of doing swirls around my circle shape. A little bit of red, not too much. I don't want it too dark, but I do want just a little bit of red in some places. Then blend in some white. Remembering that I'm going to have a piece of paper in the center of it with some words written on, whether it be part of the psalm or, I'm starting to think more and more now, part of John 3:16. That would be kind of a good place, I think, to put it. We'll see. Still thinking, but that's kind of where my thinking is going right now. So I'm not too concerned about the very center, because that won't be visible. I'm actually going to dry that first. Once it's dry, you can see that some of the colours have come out a lot lighter. So this is where I add a little bit more of that red. And that will make it a little bit more standouty, a little bit darker there. And definitely more of the yellow. And that, I think, is enough. She says as she keeps painting. You've all heard that song before. Okay, leave that alone. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that to dry. Okay, so ready to put my sun together. I've cut out the circle that I had drawn on the back side of my painted sun center. I also, because I completely forgot to do this, I have cheat inked around the Bible verse. A little bit more difficult when it's already stuck, but I used a small blending foam and just edged around in blue. That makes it look a little bit more blending into the whole work rather than just this white stark page that I had here. Now I've got a bunch of papers that I have ripped out from some of my Christmas themed paper pads. So I'm thinking of using these as the sun rays. I'm not sticking the center down just yet because I just need to make sure that things are going to sit where I want them. I have also, because this song that is being sung at the concert, it is Psalm 96, but not the entire psalm is included, only some of the verses. So I have done my usual scribble around the focus verses of the psalm. I haven't used black as I normally do because I thought it would be a little bit dark, so I've done that in blue to coordinate with the background. To number one, to bring focus onto the lines that are being sung, but also to remind myself that they are the important lines. So when I'm putting the sun rays down, I don't really want to be covering them. So we'll see how that goes. It could be interesting. So I have my little cutter here, and I'm just going to randomly cut some long triangles. And as usual, I'm just eyeballing this. And okay, that's kind of a good length. I'm going to cut a few of those. Okay, so a nice big bunch of cut up strips. I even ended up using some of this galaxy design that I inked for another project. May or may not use those, we'll see how that goes. So now it is simply a matter of lining them up to a place where I like them. So I'm being aware of the fact that I have this heart cross design here, being aware of the lines of the psalm that I still want to see, and I'm just looking to see if this is going to work for me before I commit. And I'm sort of going, yeah, okay, well, I think if I have my center here, I think that will be fine. So I'm going to start by sticking that center circle of the sun, because I don't like it when things are floating around too much. It makes for a bit of a mess and then things move around. So if I have my sun center stuck down here, I know that's solid and that's what I'm working on. And from there I can start adding my sun rays. And I'm starting with the very long ones, putting them here and there and everywhere. So there's not too much of a plan at the moment as I go. I'm just putting different coloured ones, making sure that I don't have the same colour next to each other. And leaving spaces in between because that's where the smaller ones are going to go. Now I know that's off the edge here and it will be cut off there, but that's absolutely fine with me. Let's see, now when it comes to the ones that are over the cross, I might use some shorter ones there, I think. Now I'm thinking about the colours that I'm using. I don't want to use this light coloured one here because it doesn't stand out over the psalm. So if I use a darker one, that will stand out nicely. And once I have quite a few of the big long ones, then I start coming in with smaller ones. And not all of them are going to be from the center here. Like I'll put this one a little bit further out. And not all of them are going to have the thin pointy bit pointing here at the sun. I'm going to put this one in this direction. So there's a little bit of variety going on. I want a smaller one here, I think. Yeah, I don't want to cover too much of my cross. So if I put a smaller one there, like that, and then I'm thinking very small ones. can go in there. So I'm filling the space in between, but I'm not covering too much of my design. That's kind of the plan. Yeah, that would work for me. And then it's just a matter of making my way all around the sun to fill up all these spaces and make it look full and interesting and colourful. And that's all my sun rays stuck on. I know that looks really messy here in the centre, but remember I am going to have a little bit of paper with something written on it. I hesitated because I still don't know what I'm doing there. There's kind of a plan, we'll see. Now there's something that I did on the original that I swore I would never do again, but I kind of like it, so I'm going to do it here, even though I know it's a nightmare. And that is, I'm going to use some of these Nuvo confetti circle things. Now they were an absolute nightmare when I used them last time because they are little tiny flat circles of plastic basically, and when you pour them out of the bottle it creates static, and they are a static nightmare. So I have actually learnt my lesson, and what I'm going to do, which I hope will make things a little bit easier for me, is I'm going to use my anti-static pouch. I've got a piece of paper that I'm just using as my pouring place, and I am going to give that a bit of a very big dab, 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 wipe, 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 doing everything I can to avoid as much of this static as I could possibly do. See, it's all stuck around here because it's just, these are a nightmare. They're an absolute nightmare, but I'm going to pour a little bit here. I don't need that many. And it is such, it's a tedious thing to do, but it is kind of worth it. I'm putting little dots of glue, tiny dots of glue here and there where I think I want them. As always, there's no great plan. I'm not doing too much at one time because I know this dries fairly fast. And I've got my little magic pickup stick, and I can't remember what this is called. So I can't tell you what it's called, but this picks things up like magic. So it means that I don't have to do it with my fingers, which would make this even harder. So I'm picking them up one at a time and popping them on my little dabs of glue. Very long, tedious thing to do, but these are, I love these because, well, they come in different colors, but I love these particular ones because they are, oh, I guess crystal is the name of the color here, but they're holographic. So when you move the work around, they pick up the light in different colors, and it looks really pretty. So that's why I've chosen these. So I'm just going to carry on and go all the way around my sun. That looks really pretty and shiny. It will pick up the light as it moves. I'm not quite sure what it will look like as an overhead slide, but we'll see. And one other thing I'm going to do, which I was in two minds about when I did it on the original kids thing, but I kind of like it. I'm just putting some very, very thin dabs of glue here and there. And I'm going to use that dreadful thing that we all try to avoid, glitter. But I think I need a little bit of shiny gold stuff here. And I don't want to use something as subtle as my Nuvo paste. I want it to be quite seeable. I know that's not a word, but I want it to be quite obvious because again it is going as, it's going to be photographed and then put up as a slide, so it won't show as much as it does in real life. So I'm just covering my glue here with the glitter. I probably should have used the anti-static bag all over my page before doing this. It's going to be fun to get rid of it or to tip off all the extra, but that's okay. I've opened the glitter now, so once it's open, that's it. You're not getting rid of it. So only little bits here and there just to give a little bit of extra sparkle. So I'm just going to leave that dry in its own time, and then I'll come back to it and do something about the center here and the title. Once the glitter has dried, I shook off all the excess, so now I would be finding glitter all over my house for the next 67 years. And I'm left with just these little streaks of gold glitter here and there, which I'm very happy with. I then went and printed out John 3:16 on my computer. Yes, I have decided this is what I'm going to do. So I have printed it out to a size that is kind of, will take up a lot of the center of the sun, which is what I wanted. And in true Georgia style, I'm going to rip it. Now, of course, whatever you end up using in the center of yours, you don't have to rip. You can cut beautiful and neat. You don't have to have a verse. You could use word stickers if you wanted to, or another picture, or you could just leave it like that. It does not have to have a verse. I just kind of like it, and I think that will look really nice. I just want to tear off some of the white space. I don't want too much space around the words, and that will be just perfect. But I am going to ink it a little bit because I don't want it so white. So I'm going to use my Wild Honey Distress ink. Just going to grab this to protect my artwork. And I'm going to roughly do those edges, and I'm saturating them quite a bit because I do want them to stand out. Then I'm going to blend a little bit of that ink onto the rest of the paper with the words, but I'm not going to cover the entire thing, so I'm leaving some bits white. There we go. Just to give it a bit of an aged look. And I think that will look quite pretty in the center there. Now wondering whether to have it straight or at an angle. I think I'll do it straight. Not like me, I know. I normally do things at angles and crooked and all sorts of things. But this actually looks better when it's straight. Oops. I'm just making sure that my glue goes all the way to the edges and popping that in the center. So all that messiness from the rays coming onto the sun, well, half of it's hidden, and because you've got those words there, your attention is not drawn so much to the fact that this might look messy. It all looks like it belongs. Great, so the only thing left to do now is my title. So the title for this song, even though the song is actually Psalm 96, the title is Isaiah chapter 9 verse 6. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given. And I am going to write it in English along here, sideways. And I have a lady in my art group who is going to do the Chinese characters for me on Saturday night. So this Chinese part of this page will not be in the video, but by the time I upload this to YouTube, I will have a picture of the finished page and you'll be able to see both of the titles. Now, I do realize that I've sort of put the whole design a bit lopsided, so this side is larger than that side, and I'm sitting here thinking, which one's going to take up more space, the English or the Chinese? I don't know. But the lady who's doing the Chinese for me does beautiful, small, delicate artwork. So I think she'll be able to work with a smaller space much better than I can. So I'm going to take the big space and write the title. So I've just thickened up all of the letters in my title, and I am not the best at scripting, so it's kind of messy, and I'm sort of shuddering to think of what it's going to look like when it's blown up and put up on the screen. But it is what it is, and the whole point of this exercise was for everybody in my art group to make a piece of art to illustrate the song that was given to them, and to do it in such a way that not only speaks of the song, but speaks of their own heart and has a personal take. So, you know, one thing we all know about me is my writing is atrocious and it's never straight, so I've really put that on the page. Okay, I will be cheating, of course, and getting my friend to write the Chinese title because, yeah, my Chinese is just a little bit rusty. And otherwise, I think I'm kind of done. I might come back to this tomorrow in the light of day and just just neaten it up a little bit. I see there are some shabby edges, maybe not. I did print out the reference John 3:16. I had thought about maybe cutting that out and putting it somewhere, but I think I'm going to, I don't know, maybe. I'm thinking about this now. I printed it quite small, so if I was to tear it out now, that could be interesting actually. So I'm just going to rip it as I do the quick ink thing. And if I was to stick it down there, that'd be interesting. Oh yeah, that kind of looks nice to me. I'm just spreading some glue on that. If I pop that down here, I kind of like that. Okay, so there we go. So we have the song title. The actual song is illustrated as a Bible journaling sort of design, and then I have the theme of the concert in the center of the sun. Waiting for one more title, and then I'm done. So this has been a very kind of different, but it's a really good example of how you can take your Bible journaling and take it off the page and put it onto something that can be framed and put up on the wall perhaps, or in a sketchbook. If you like working in sketchbook format, then you can actually take it, elongate it, or you could do it in portrait mode and add extras at the top and bottom. But just taking that Bible journaling beyond the page and into something that is more display art. Just an idea for you. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.